doesn't exist until it cracks apart. Time doesn't exist until
I
it
am
cracks
Illyria.
apart. Time doesn't exist until
I am Illyria.
you were pretty at night. Time doesn't exist until
I am Illyria.
you were pretty at night. Slew the white-haired one first.
I am Illyria.
You were pretty at night. Slew the white-haired one first.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of It's Time to Rewind, the podcast trapped in its own time loop right along with the movies we discuss. This season is the Serial Bomb Yo, and we're looking at Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel. And we have moved on to Angel Season 5, Episode 19, Time Bomb. Today we're discussing the second loop in the episode, starting at 18 minutes and 3 seconds with Wesley calling out Illyria's name, and ending at 18 minutes and 9 seconds with Wesley pointing a gun at Illyria before the world blurs around her. Joining me today is my guest, Rob Branch, co-host of my other show, Lyrical Innuendo. How are you doing today?
What's going on, Bubba? How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. And this is your first time on here, so welcome to
It is
this
yes.
show.
Thank you. I feel honored.
Yeah, it's I feel like I have a different persona whenever I'm on this show than whenever I'm talking about songs with you.
Yeah, we got some good songs. You know, Kokomo is one of my all-time favorites now.
Yeah, I feel like I'm a little bit more academic on this podcast. And
Yeah, you really are sassy on the other one, so
yeah, I have a lot of fun on that show. You know, this is only the second loop, but it's already going into just a really short clip. You know, this is just like a 6-second clip here. You know, and at this point in this episode, you don't really know what's going on. It's like, you know, she just jumps into this. There is no real setup of a time loop or anything. And it's not exactly a time loop because she's kind of jumping around back and forth. She's not repeating like the exact same segment of time over and over. She's kind of jumping back and forth in kind of random elements, but it's all contained within this single day.
Right. Yeah, I was just gonna say that I keep on watching that clip over and over again, and the part where she kind of loops is just that was probably the best special effects I've seen of that season, you know.
Yeah, I do actually really like what they do, how it's like the blurring of the black background, but it's almost like a black hole effect. It's almost like the background gets sucked into a black hole that's centered directly behind Illyria, like, and almost like right where she's clutching her stomach.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's an interesting effect. And like, do you remember the first time you watched this episode? Like, did you think that Wesley was trying to kill her with this, you know, very plastic looking gun that he points out?
This plastic cyber gun. Yeah, I would know. To be honest, I really when I first started watching, I watched Buffy and Angel when they first came out. You know, I was a teenager with Buffy, and I was like, all right, whatever, you know. I've tried to rewatch Buffy in the past, and it's you know, I question why I watched it. But when I watched Angel, it's more mature. The audience, you know, it's set for its more mature audience. You could tell that Angel copes with a lot of problems and realizes every day he puts his friends in danger. And in season 5, when, you know, Illyria comes front, you know, Angel's just kind of at the point where he's just tired, and he's just tired of everybody's shit, you know. And so when I watched this episode again, I remember like watching it, and I remember going back and forth on it because I was like, man, it's been a while since I've watched it. But yeah, I remember watching it, and I remember even like right now, like I watched it earlier, and I was like, man, I do not remember what is. I have gone through way too much to remember what's happening. I'm like, oh, it's starting to come back. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that too. Like whenever I was doing prep for this season, I started with Time Bomb first, which is episode 19,
Hmm.
and then I went back and watched season 5 start to finish. So it's like jumping in, it's like, yeah, I remember bits and pieces, but I forget a lot of how everything fits together and what the timeline is on this. And then I rewatched season 5 and it's like, okay, yeah, I see where this all fits in, and it makes much more sense now.
Yeah, I gotta say, like, yeah, I know I'm gonna go on a tangent here, but my favorite episode was Puppet Time. I'm sorry, but it would have been even better if they brought Illyria into it and Illyria became a puppet
Yeah,
and she lost her powers, So her and
because
Angel are just
she's like already kind of got the heightened emotions.
yep. So then she becomes a puppet, and we all know how that happened. So yeah, I mean, when Angel became a puppet, but yeah, it would have been better, But I gotta say, when I rewatched this episode, I had forgotten what Illyria looked like, and Amy Acker's gorgeous as she is already. When I saw this character again, I was like, man, dear sweet Jesus, I wish she really was a goddess. I would worship her right now.
I forget that she's not as blue as I remember, because I always remember her as being uh, the blue, but it's really
Right.
just kind of the top of her forehead. She's got the front streaks in her hair, the lips, and then the contact lenses.
Yeah, she's
Uh,
not Farscape blue.
Yeah,
But she does have like blue tones to her, yeah.
and then she's got the maroon leather outfit.
Yes, the dominatrix outfit. Yes, I can't say that, I'm not I'm not ashamed to say it, that's half the reason why I watched season 5. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I do think that Amy Acker is a great actress, and she plays kind of both sides, the Fred side and the Illyria side,
Yeah.
pretty well.
I kind of feel disappointed because they canceled it, and I think they canceled it too soon. Because
Oh, definitely.
I watching it, like, I love Fred. She was the quintessential, centered focus of the team before, Charisma Carpenter left. After Charisma left, Amy Acker's character, she was just like the linchpin to everything. Everybody confided in her, looked up to her, even if they didn't want to admit it. And then she, becomes this like eternal deity that's dying. And I'm like, you could have pushed that into another season of it.
Yeah,
But
and
I
it's
think
kind of crazy to think that the Illyria really only appeared like 5 episodes before the end.
yeah, she did not get enough time.
And I do think it's interesting that you talk, and I always hear this whenever people talk about the difference between Buffy and Angel, that Angel is a more mature show and that Buffy is like the coming of age show. And I definitely think that's true. I think even with the addition of Cordelia in there, it really feels like Cordelia aged like 5 years when she, after she graduated and moved to LA. It's like her character just immediately aged 5 years and she became a young adult and not
Well, I
just
mean,
someone straight out of high school.
Cordelia had this sense of like she's going to be a movie star, and you got to figure, all the characters in Buffy were from a small town, and then she
Well,
comes
and I
up
think
in
it also helped that Charisma Carpenter was also, had 5 years on everybody.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anyways,
So you have an actress play a character who thinks they're going to be this famous Hollywood actress, and then they go to one of the largest cities known for acting and realize that the real world is just full of shit. So she gets a real job and she realizes that her real job is basically with the people she grew up with. So she's like, oh, okay, I can relax just a little bit now. Oh, demons? Oh, no big deal.
yeah, it's like she moves to LA and then she works for her, not her best friend, but one of her high school friends' ex-boyfriend.
That's a little awkward. But what's really unique about Buffy as in Angel is that it's, even though it's basically, Angel's a spinoff of Buffy, the characters still realize that they know who they are and they know each other's pasts. So when Angel finally loosens up and confides in Cordelia, she's not completely freaked out. And even when Fred, I honestly, I don't know how characters like Fred and Gunn come into this and they're like not crying in the shower. It's like I just witnessed a multi-dimensional demon rip a guy's spine right out of his back. And
I mean, Fred, she spent what, like a year or 2 years in that demon dimension.
that will stunt a person, emotional growth a little bit. But yeah, it's interesting to see that some characters, when they transition from Buffy to Angel, some characters are kind of like, the I don't want to say like the moral linchpin, but the emotional connection, the emotional linchpin, like, oh, well, don't worry, acid spitting, bug, don't worry about it. We've seen that before. We know how to get rid of that. And everybody's like, I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, or like the doctor, that stalker boyfriend guy who could pull himself apart and like send his eyeball.
Yeah, that's some nice little creepy shit, and any normal person would be like, no, I'm leaving. I'm going. No, you deal with it. And the entire cast is like, well, all right, time to collect the paycheck. But I really enjoyed Fred's character because, I'm kind of a nerd myself. I think it's safe to say we're all nerds in a way. But her character really just struggled with, I don't want to say fit in, but it seems like, she was like the high school, like freshman of the group, and she's dealing with all this and trying to figure out how to mesh with the team, and, falls in love here, falls in love there. And then she's like, okay, I got this. Out of nowhere, this Jag just turns her into, this eternal goddess. And it's like, well, that was kind of a dick move,
Yeah, it's like I think she dates Gunn for a little bit, and then she goes on a couple dates with her science coworker guy, and then she falls in love with Wesley.
Yeah. And Wesley is the guy, Wesley falls in love with her, and it's really, it's endearing to the fact that, even with this episode, the entire time Illyria is thinking that, Wesley's trying to kill her, and he's like, no, I'm not. I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I just woke up. Okay, seriously, I haven't had my coffee this morning. And you're like, oh, you're trying to kill me. No, I just got out of the bathroom. Give me 5 minutes, But the entire time, like, he's trying to help her. But then he's coming to terms with, if we don't get rid of Illyria, she's basically going to nuke LA.
Yeah, there's so much going on with that. And I think that, these two shows especially, it's a very common issue that's like right whenever things seem to be going well, that's whenever they get the rug pulled out from under them. And that's what happened with Wesley and Wesley and Fred's relationship. Like, as soon as they get together, the very next episode, that's when Fred dies and becomes Illyria.
Yeah, it's tragic, but then again, that's kind of how, if you've ever, spoilers, if you've ever watched Angel or Buffy, there's always that situation where things are fine, but oh no, here we go again,
But I think we've already covered enough for this short one. We've got a lot more to talk about in 2 episodes from now. We've got another short episode after this, but I'd like to thank you for talking with me today and joining me on this show. And I do know that you have a couple other episodes, or a couple other podcasts out there. So for anybody that hasn't heard you on Lyrical Innuendo, why don't you take a moment and let everybody know where else they can hear you?
Well, they can find me at Rabbit Hole Podcast, Facebook, Rabbit Hole Podcast. I am on Twitter. I don't know what my Twitter is because I barely use it. But as far as podcasts go, I'm on Whatever with Jason Soto. I'm on Lyrical Innuendo. I'm on Top 5 A through Z. and a couple other ones spread out here and there. I'm actually trying to I want to do my own podcast from my own, my own kind, but I have no idea what I do. I just graduated college again, so my brain is trying to, turn off. So yeah.
All right, and as always, I'm Bubbawheat, and you can find this show, It's Time to Rewind, on anchor.fm, as well as anywhere else that you listen to podcasts. We also have our Facebook group, It's Time to Rewind, a time loop group. You can join that and discuss episodes as they come out, and you can also have discussions about time loop movies, TV shows, books, anything time loop, time travel related is welcome there. And until next time, grr.
Time doesn't exist until it cracks apart. Time doesn't exist until it cracks apart. Time doesn't exist until it cracks apart. You were pretty at night. Time doesn't exist until it cracks apart. You were pretty at night. Slew the white-haired one first. You were pretty at night. Slew the white-haired one first.